So hello, Gunner. Hi, how are
Hello,
you?
hi.
Hi. So you were recommended to me by a friend called Mabel Gomez.
Yes, it was very kind of her to recommend me.
Yes, so I'm really happy with these types of suggestions, and I
Yeah.
always recommend to anyone who watches if you ever have a recommendation of some sort, just let me know. But today we're going to interview Gunner, or Gunner in English. He's from Denmark, and yeah, I would like to ask you first, like, can you give us a short introduction of who you are and what we're going to talk about, something like that? I mean, it's better if you do that than I do, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, well, well, the thing is that that I started up with the tango, in a very coincidental way. In Actually, it was back in '89. Me and a very good friend, we started talking a little bit about tango. She wanted to write about some text and analyze the lyrics in the tango in the tangos, and we started talking, and I knew something about Piazzolla, and I knew something about Argentine tango because there's a very interesting book written by a Swedish researcher. He wrote a book about Argentine tango in the middle of the 80s, called Gunner, and it was called, in Swedish, it's called Det mesta om tango, the most of the tango, something like that in English. And it was written about the tango history, and he was very annoyed about actually what happened to the tango in the beginning of the 20th century, that a lot of the original things in the original tango disappeared when it became a ballroom tango. And I read about this book, and so that's why I knew there was something. There was a kind of tango that was different from the ballroom tango, and so we started talking about this.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Or maybe you were just about to explain that, but I'm very curious, like, how it is possible that in 1989 someone wanted to research tango lyrics. Well, there was like literally nothing known about Argentine tango, maybe about Piazzolla, but I mean, the real stuff that we dance to right now, I mean, that's not. So it feels like almost like anachronistic to me that someone at that time wanted to. I hope you understand my point, but that's
no, but of course, yes. But it is a kind of interesting story. First of all, my dance partner at that time, Hanne-Katrine Navina, she had been married to a man from Argentina, and they were not together anymore. But via his family from Argentina, she knew that there was there was another tango than the tango that we know from the ballrooms, and his family always said, yeah, you know, the original tango is much more interesting and more it's much nicer than the ballroom tango. And so she knew there was some tango that was different from the ballroom tango. Now she was going to write she was going to write doing her master degree in writing about the text of some of the tangos, analyzing tango lyrics, and the teacher she had as a counselor at that time was in semiotic. There was a center for semiotic in Aarhus, where we lived at that time. His name is Per O. Brandt, and he's actually born in Buenos Aires, So so there was also an interesting link between P.O. Brandt and Navina and the tango lyrics there. This is something absolutely interesting. P.O. Brandt is a very famous researcher in semiotics. Unfortunately, he died here only half a year ago. But so Navina wanted to write about tango, and because she knew me, we have known each other since we were 17, 18 years old, and she knew that I liked to dance, and she asked me if I wanted to dance the Argentine tango, just to kind of to do something funny together, and because we were also curious about this kind of thing, what is it actually, the original tango? And we had a very funny, you know, the movie L'Exil de Gardel. There is a small sequence with Gloria Eduardo where they are dancing. And we were very fascinated about this performance in the movie. Actually, it's it happens to be a milonga called Milonga Loco, written by Piazzolla. But we really liked this tango that they were dancing in this movie. And anyway, we were looking for the tango in Denmark, and we couldn't find it anywhere. We lived in Aarhus at that time, and we went to Copenhagen, and there were nobody dancing the Argentine tango at that time in the 1990. In autumn 1990, Navina went to Berlin and she met Michel Ruhl. Michel Ruhl from who already taught tango in this studio Latin Americas together with Dietrich Lange, and Navina came back to me and said, "Oh, now I have learned some steps," and I was dancing with Michel Ruhl, and you know, she couldn't remember anything about the men's steps at all. So I said, "Okay, let's invite him up to Aarhus," and that was the way it started. He came in January 1991, and that is considered as the first official tango event in Denmark.
So just to repeat, there was like literally no tango in Denmark until that point. Argentine tango.
At that point, there was absolutely no Argentine tango in Denmark.
Okay.
As far as we know, Juan Carlos Cobos and his company, they went to Tivoli in Copenhagen in the beginning of the 70s, but that was only to make a show in Tivoli in Copenhagen. But there has been no group or anybody teaching tango in Denmark, as far as we know, until when we started.
Yes, that's so interesting that you're like literally the pioneer of tango in Denmark, yes. Right? Even though it was a few, like you told me before, it was a few years after the tango revival in some other countries like the Netherlands and Germany. So you came a bit later, but still, it's a monumental thing that that you created something that did not exist by importing it, like literally.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting story in some way, also for myself personally, actually. So and then what happened is, Michel Ruhl came again. He came several times to Aarhus in springtime '91 and gave workshops, and we were a small group that were really enthusiastic and was practicing a lot. And Navina, my first partner, she actually went. She went to Buenos Aires to study some more, and she met another man from Argentina and married him. So she stayed in Buenos Aires for a longer time. But I found another partner, and in summer '91, me and my new partner went to Berlin to participate in a workshop with Antonio Todaro. So we had a really, like, we really had a very strong start into the Argentine tango, because in Berlin, when we were there, and we could see that this is absolutely an very interesting place to be, and tango was so fascinating for us.
And what was that? Maybe a bit of a random question, but was that like the tango like it became later? Like, was it? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine. I only know it from stories, but were people in Berlin, were they actually dancing the way they are dancing now, or was it totally different? Like your first contact with tango, I mean.
Well, you see that those days, the main teachers from Buenos Aires were people like Pipito and Todaro and Raul Bravo, and you have some of these really old people from Mingo Pugliese also, and they had a very particular style. If you watch the movies, the videos from those days, they had a very interesting style of tango, and it was actually, I think it was very much steps. It was not, of course, it was a social dance also for these people, and it was very very original actually. But there were not many people dancing Argentine tango in Argentina at that time. Many of the people who danced was actually engaged in show dancing, and so a very small number of people were using it as a social dance, and they were all belonging to an older generation. It was little by little in the end of the 80s and the beginning of 90s, a new generation came with, for example, Milena Plebs and Miguel Angel Soto. They were kind of the avant-garde of this new generation who came into the tango. So the way they were teaching, it was very much steps, and it was very much it's another style, because in the 90s the tango took two different directions. It took a direction more into the there was a direction into the very close embrace, and there was another direction into the Tango Nuevo, where it was Chicho, Gustavo Navera, Fabian Salas. These guys, they were bringing the tango into a completely new area with the Tango Nuevo, or whatever you call it. But then you also had these a lot of people who came and were looking for this tango as a social dance, where they were dancing a much closer embrace than actually they actually did in the 80s in Buenos Aires.
So yeah, it was, in a sense, finding tango then was also finding something that was in transition itself, whereas when you would start now, I mean, something still changed, but tango is very established in a lot of countries. But back then it was all very experimental, and like you say, like in Buenos Aires, it wasn't even so popular, so danced. So
no. At that time in the 80s, tango was not considered something that had any interest for people all over the world. But I mean, it was an interest that had started little by little in the 80s. So it was coming up actually, but it was not a big thing in Buenos Aires at that time, but it came during the 90s.
Yes. And returning to you, like what attracted you to Argentine tango when you saw it or when you experienced it? Because we just talked about the general story, but of course it's also about you.
Yeah. So. But I mean, for me personally, it was like I was more, when I was a child, I mean, I grew up in a small city in the northern part of Denmark, and I didn't have a lot of possibilities for, you might say, go to dance schools. So I was more in the sport, and I was playing a lot of football and stuff like that, badminton, handball, and so on, especially football. But when I started at the university, I met some people who were dancing more like modern dance, and I found it really interesting. So I was going to some performances, and I thought it was an interesting way to use your body. So in the end of the 80s in Aarhus, I was also trying to experiment a little bit, going to some dance theater, being in some groups myself. And so I was already flirting a little bit with the dance at that time, just to try to use my body in another setting than the sport. So that it was my background was mostly in this from the sport, actually. But just simply to actually not only to use my body in another way, but also because just to find new friends in another, who were interested in another thing that I was interested in myself, or not just to meet new friends, actually. That's what I did.
Yes. And how did you, so how you got some experience with dancing, and then when you saw tango, like again, what is it that what did it interest so much, like
in the beginning, when you start something like that, you really don't know what it is in some way. I mean, you're just there because it's fun, and you think, wow, you can do these steps, you can do these steps, and you I mean, you're really like, the first couple of years I was dancing, I was more like I wanted to learn new steps and new variations and so on, new figures. It was not the connection stuff and the way to the communication and all these things. They were not important for me in the beginning.
and the embrace as well.
And the embrace, of course, but it was not the important thing, actually. It was just to try to improvise and to play with these various steps and figures and so on. It came a little bit later for me, actually. When I met in 1993, I met Erik Jurisen, and he brought another another approach into the tango, for me at least. So and from that time, I was like, I met many different teachers, and they all brought new aspects into the tango for me. I was really looking everywhere for inspiration. But in the beginning, it was really just the playing with the steps and the figures and so on. Of course, it was very clear that tango was also something that you could bring aspects of more psychological, philosophical ideas into the tango, or you could benefit from the tango, using tango as a kind of metaphor or a kind of tool to get to know yourself better and so on. But that came a little bit later for me.
Yes, yeah, obviously. I mean, if you don't, there's no way you're going to understand that if you don't understand things like connection first, I would say. So, but it's pretty logical to me that you, or maybe also other people, mostly came into it being interested in dance. Also because you mentioned that you were exploring these other things. Then if you see tango, maybe it just clicks and you think like, oh, that looks really interesting. And the rest comes later. So I guess that's what happened, right?
Yeah, but I knew, it's something that when you open this door into the tango as a dance, you also think, okay, Argentina is an interesting country, it's an interesting culture. Spanish is an interesting language, and you feel that when you open one door, you open another door, you open another door, and suddenly you have this kind of universe that you find. So it's wonderful to have this to really feel that your curiosity is just evoking all the time. You open one more door and you open one more door and you just, wow, this is incredible. And I mean, I was already in the psychology at that time, so of course, I mean, the psychologist side of the tango was of course obvious for me. Little by little, that I had to. This was a way I had to go and explore.
Yes, yes, yes. It's very interesting how these, yeah, when everything's so new and you need to explore most things yourself. I mean, I guess that's still the case when someone starts now. They're also exploring all these things and they come into a world they were not familiar with. So maybe that's still the case. But well, in your time, everything was very rudimentary. So you had to find out everything yourself, even in a literal sense. Like, where can I have lessons? I mean, now you would go to a studio, you
Yes,
could
of
go to
course.
Google, but I mean that those were different times.
I mean, all the lessons in Aarhus when I started was something I organized myself. I mean, the first 8, 9, 10 years was something I was more or less in charge of myself. I mean, I was teaching a lot myself. From 92, I started teaching, and then I organized, I mean, between 50 and 60, 70 workshops all during the 90s with many different teachers from Europe and from Argentina. So, and I went to, Navina came back and she moved to Copenhagen and started the tango school in Copenhagen. And I went to Copenhagen and danced a lot. I didn't go so much to other cities in Europe at that time, but I came first later.
But you said you had a lot of different teachers, but I suppose that you'd also have to travel to other places in Europe to find them, like Erik or.
Yes, of course. Yes, I mean, Erik, I found just with but I also had them recommended because I mean, there were people who came and said, you have to invite these people, you have to invite them, and so on. And we were just the group we were in Aarhus at that time. We were just, I mean, really open, and we said, yes, of course, we have to invite
Of course,
them.
of course, you invited a lot of people to come to you. I mean, that's also, you don't have to travel anywhere because they travel
No,
to you.
yeah, it was kind of funny because we had a lot of really, really good teachers who came to Aarhus, and so we didn't really have to. It was not necessary to go to Berlin or to Amsterdam or Paris to meet new teachers. It came a little by little, of course, and also in Copenhagen, when Navina started tango in Copenhagen in '92, she started also inviting people to Copenhagen, like Julio Balmaceda and Corina de la Rosa and Gustavo Navera. When before he met Giselle, he was a regular teacher in Copenhagen, and I went there to be with him many times. So I mean, there was a lot of influence from many different really good teachers who came to Denmark during the 90s. Yeah, really. I mean, and also some people that you would say that they belong to also the old guard, like Tacho Dante, for example, and Claudia Rosenblatt came, and later came, of course. I mean, Gavito came, and you also have like Kelly and Facundo. So I mean, people from you have a lot of different teachers who came, young teachers, and from the old generation also.
Is that also because you were good at organizing and managing things, or did it just happen naturally?
No, it was something that I was. I liked it. I like to organize it, and I was. It's difficult to say if I were, but I might have a kind of flair for organizing, and so it was very natural for me that it was a way for me to develop the tango community in especially in Aarhus, where I lived until 99. So I was really, I mean, I felt a kind of responsibility to keep the tango going and to grow the community. So And of course, I was not alone. We were a very wonderful group of tango dancers and teachers in Aarhus, because we had a lot of teaching going on in Aarhus in the 90s. It was not possible for one person to teach. We had like 12 classes in many different levels from the middle of the 90s, and then so it was a lot of teaching. Aarhus was a kind of very active tango city.
Okay. So you went to Berlin originally, and then you came back, and you decided to, I don't know what was this. No, you first had them come. A man from Berlin. You had him come to your area to teach, and then you also went to Berlin, right?
Yeah.
But how, in general, like, how did you start organizing things and teaching? How did that begin?
I mean, in the beginning, we just invited everybody we could. I mean, friends and family and study people from the university and people we knew. So, but there was a really interesting. There was a big interest in it from many sides, and we had a lot of contacts actually. So, people came from many different environments, and so we had a quite big group from the beginning, like 15 couples actually in the first workshop.
Oh, okay.
And it grew really fast. I mean, the word spread. It was just simply, and we were really good at keeping people, keeping the people in updated in the activities that we were doing. So that people they really continued being in the tango, and so that's how it actually continued growing during the 90s. I mean, it was a big community, and still is actually in Aarhus.
Okay. Like, if for the size of the city, for example, it's relatively big or something like that.
Well, it's like 250,000 people, so it's a size where you can grow a significant amount of. You can have a really good tango community in such a city.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it was kind of a natural thing that happened, but it also was organized well by you and others.
I guess so. I guess you can say so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, for some, you have to keep people engaged in one way or another, and that's part, like, also a business model, right? I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
Because there are so many other things people can do, and I've noticed from some teachers is that there are always like a group of very dedicated students, but they also have a big group, at least before Corona. They had a very big group of people who kind of like it, but they're not as passionate as some other people who really make it until for example, you have some people and they after 2 years they start showing up at encuentros or something, whereas you also have people who might dance for 20 years, but they never really learn it, and they're fine doing what they're doing. So that's just the difference. But yeah, I don't really remember how I came to this. But yeah, maybe there's something with knowing how to manage and organize everything, and manage people skills, and yeah. And you have been an organizer and teacher, and well, that's the main things, right? For almost no, over 30 years.
Yeah. It's more than 30 years now.
Yeah.
So it's more like, I mean, it's more like it's almost going to be like 32 years now. When I made my first steps in autumn 90, but those steps were not, I mean, they were not really. It was first in January 91 that I made my first real tango steps. So it's more than 31 years.
What do you mean with this difference?
No, because as I said, that Navina came back from Berlin and she couldn't remember the men steps, the man
Oh,
steps.
okay.
So it was just funny. So
Yes, but you mean once you got the teacher from Berlin, that's when it really
that's when I think I learned my first real. That was my first connection to the original Argentine tango.
okay. And when you were I mean, I'd imagine that nowadays, if you're a teacher, you can just look up all these things on the internet and YouTube, or you can have a Zoom call with someone from
Yes,
Brazil, whatever, wherever it is. And you can
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
exchange information. But back then, you had to do everything yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you like? Well, you said you had classes with a lot of different people who came to your city. But is that like the only way you became a teacher, or did you also study yourself, or invent things yourself, or like, is there anything you can say about that?
Well, I mean, I think, I mean, I had a lot of enthusiasm and I had a flair for teaching. But I didn't invent anything. I took everything I could from all the teachers that I met and brought it into the tango. I mean, I was really crazy, and I liked the teaching also. So quite immediately that after that I started like 1.5 years after that I started. I knew that I also had an interest in being a teacher. So these are the two I mean caps that I have been wearing in my tango ever since that I consider myself as a tango dancer, a social tango dancer, first of all, and then also I consider myself as a teacher. So this is the way I approach the tango. I always have these two ways of looking at things. I want to develop my own dance as a social dancer, first of all, and then I want to develop my skills as a teacher. It's more like a research actually when you do it as a teacher, I think. And I mean, my shows, when I do a show or I'm doing a performance, I always improvise. I have never made any choreography in my performances. And I mean, I've been doing performances since 92. So you see, it's been many years where I've been doing a lot of performances, but it's always been improvised. It's the way I like to show the Argentine tango.
Yes, and probably also based on social dancing.
Yeah, I just kind of I'm doing a kind of extended social dance when
Okay.
I'm making the performance.
Yes. So did that interest in teaching, did that have to do with your psychology background?
No, it was. I think it was more like my background as a football coach.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this was of. It gave me a very natural approach to teaching. That standing in front of people and showing them some physical skills, and just telling people what to do, what not to do, and staying in front of a group of people, because I had been a football coach in the 80s for various young guys, so I had a very natural flair for standing in front of people teaching.
Okay, it's funny how you use one experience and then you grow into something else, and then you use the life experience you have there to continue teaching, because
Yeah,
I've always considered that, like, you can be a really good tango dancer, but you can also be a really bad teacher at the same time.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like one skill to be good at something, whatever it is, and then it's another skill to be a good teacher, and that's more universal probably, even though it's not the same to teach
No.
about ancient philosophy as to teach about tango steps. But it's still you need to well, you need to know a lot, but maybe you also need to have some natural like a talent for how to bring knowledge across and how to make it stick and all these things. So that's pretty much the next topic I wanted to discuss, like your teaching of tango. So unless you have anything else to add about the history.
No, not really. No.
Okay. Because I have some things to ask about Buenos Aires, but that's probably a bit of a separate topic. So that's history as well. But let's first focus on the teaching, because we have mostly been talking about that a lot already. So in general, maybe it's a bit of a fake question, but how did your teaching like evolve from those times? Maybe that's a nice question. It's just the first thing that I came up with. But,
well, it's interesting because I don't think I was such a bad teacher actually from the beginning, because I had a lot of enthusiasm, but I mean, I was teaching steps. I mean, I was not very good at teaching like connection.
Sorry, yeah, that's what you said. Like first as a dancer as well, you were mostly interested in the steps, and then the rest came later. So maybe as a teacher, or maybe you can talk as well as a dancer right now, like what happened. Like maybe there's also a bit of history then, but how did you become more interested in the other because that has implications for your teaching as well.
Yeah, but you see that that I had, as I said, that I was busy it was a busy time in the 90s for me in Aarhus. I mean, busy with the tango, but also busy studying, and I was doing research in psychology. And I had my first child, so it was a busy time, and I didn't have time to go to Buenos Aires until 2001. So I had been dancing for 10 years before I went to Buenos Aires, and of course I knew a lot about different styles. As I said, that I was kind of connected to also, I mean, the old guard of tango dancers, Mingo Pugliese, Todaro, and so on. So I knew something about their dance, and then I met Gustavo Navera and his approach to tango in the 90s, and I met Erik Juris and many of the people who came with this approach, more the close embrace. And so I knew about different styles, and but the close embrace was not something that I practiced a lot myself actually. Then I went to Buenos Aires in 2001, and it changed my tango a lot, because going to the milongas in Buenos Aires was really different from the milongas that I went to in Europe and in Denmark in particular. There were not these milongas where you really knew that now I have to dance the close embrace and I have to learn how to maneuver on the dance floor and stuff like that. So it meant a lot for me when I started going to Buenos Aires.
Sorry, I don't understand.
It changed my dance a lot when I came to Buenos Aires in 2001.
I don't understand what exactly was different about the milongas. I got a bit confused there.
It is simply that there's a kind of energy, and you feel this going to the milongas, that I felt that my dance changed actually. It's in many ways my dance changed when I went to Buenos Aires in 2001. And I was more interested in the close embrace after that, when I came home, and I developed my teaching also a lot from that time. And my partner and me, we were teaching close embrace for the first until for many years from 2000 and until 2008, 9, 10. Because really my teaching, my interest in tango became more into the social dance, or into the close embrace.
Yes.
So,
but I guess that what you were doing in the 90s was also a social dance. It was just not.
Yeah, it was a social dance, but it was I don't know. I mean, of course, it gave me a deeper understanding of the tango to go to Buenos Aires. It really did. I can't explain exactly what happened actually to my dance, but for example, in Denmark at that time, no milongas used tandas and cortinas.
Ah, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I heard
And
that before. Yeah, I
and you
mean
know,
about other countries in Europe, but I heard that before. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could go to Berlin or maybe to Paris or Amsterdam or maybe London also, and you could, of course, many cities in Europe, you had some communities where they were doing the milongas more like Buenos Aires milongas with tandas and cortinas, but really it was not something that was so common in Europe to use tandas and cortinas as a really basic organizing of the milonga. And but when I came to Buenos Aires, I immediately understood all the benefits that this organizing of the milongas have on the community, on the circulation, and what it's meant to, and what it's doing to the social environment and to the community. So I started in my milonga. I started immediately when I came back from Buenos Aires to do the tandas and cortinas in my milonga. And it was the first milonga in Copenhagen or in Denmark who used the tandas and cortinas regularly. Even the Argentines who had a milonga in Copenhagen at that time, they didn't use it. They thought it's not something for people from Denmark. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they also had to adapt to the local, like the local flavor in a way. But you can change the flavor, and that's what you did immediately.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I mean, it was only a couple of years after that I started. All the milongas in Copenhagen used the tandas and cortinas.
Okay.
And it is, because they saw, okay, there's some sense in this organizing, so they wanted to do it also.
But they copied that from you, or were there also other people who went to Buenos Aires and
I mean,
realized the same thing, or was it you?
it's different. It's difficult to say if they
Okay.
really copied from me, but I was the first one.
Yeah.
And I was doing it really, really. I was a very strong ambassador for this way to do it. And so I said to the people I don't know why you're not doing it, because I think it's much better to do the tandas and the cortinas. There's so many benefits from using tandas and cortinas, and then it was also a time when people started going to Buenos Aires themselves, and I started organizing trips to Buenos Aires with groups.
Yeah.
2001 and 2002 and 3 and so on, more or less every year since then. I've been in Buenos Aires with groups. I've been there like more than 20 years now, 20 times now with different groups of tango dancers. And so, I mean, and not only with me, but also other organizers went to Buenos Aires, and some went there on their own. And they, so many people started knowing about the milongas in Buenos Aires and appreciated it.
Was there some resistance in your community against these new things, or did everyone just think it was a good idea? I'm sorry if this is an offensive question, but
no, but there was a very funny group in Copenhagen, because I moved to Copenhagen in late 1999. And at that time there was a funny group. I call it a little bit funny, because they were having a milonga called "This Ain't Buenos Aires."
Okay.
Like
okay.
a kind of, like they really didn't want it to they wanted to do it in their own way, and they said this is not Buenos Aires, so they called it Tapa. It still exists actually, but now they're running it with tandas and cortinas, of course. But they were kind of against all the things that came from Buenos Aires, which was kind of, it was a bit funny or even ridiculous actually. But
so what else came from Buenos Aires? Close embrace, tandas and cortinas, like. Is there something else you can summarize?
Well, I mean, you have when tandas and cortinas, of course, you organize also the tandas in various orchestras and milonga and tango waltz and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So there was also more you had like more knowledge also about music.
Yeah.
Because there was a really crazy mixture sometimes of music in the milongas. I mean, you could have Di Sarli and Canaro, playing in top of each other, and then suddenly some waltz and milonga came. I mean, it was very unorganized, and people became more conscious about music also.
Yes, I recently talked to Michael Lavoca, and he I think he started in '93, and he said something, I can't quote him like accurately, but he has said something like, back then we were already happy when we had like a CD of very dramatic Pugliese and we could just dance to that, and we didn't know there was anything else. Not that that's bad music, of course, but that's just you just grabbed whatever opportunity you could to do steps, apparently, and the music was something that's my interpretation, but the music was maybe something that was just there, but it was not the main focus. And then through time it just evolves and now we are happy that students are interested in the music, whereas like 10 years ago there were few people who were actually interested in music. Like it's evolving.
Yeah,
and then sorry, go ahead.
This is a very interesting, actually, what he's telling about. I know him very well, and the thing is that actually the interest of music have been one of the things that have developed mostly during the last 10 years, as you're saying. Actually, I think more dancers are now interested in dancing to the music. It sounds a little bit crazy to say, but it's they are putting much more attention to the rhythm, to the melody, and the structure of the music. Like now also, like you have also teachers who are really, doing some very, very strong research in the structure of the music, like Hernan Rodriguez from Genova, who wrote a very interesting book about how to use the music as a milonguero. And you find many other dancers who are who have a lot of emphasis on rhythm, like Chicho, for example, and Calito, and they are really, and also like you have Maya and Marco. You have dancers now who have another attention and who have another focus on the music than you saw dancers, especially in the 90s, but also, also after that.
Yeah, it's just like a next level of development, of progress.
Absolutely. I mean, you see dancers now, they are really, really strong. They really know phrases and melodies of the tangos that they are dancing to. Also in the milongas, not only in shows.
So can I ask something controversial?
Yeah, okay.
Because we're talking about progress since those times, but are there also maybe things that maybe it's just nostalgia, but things that are disappeared that used to be there back then that were maybe more interesting than now? I mean, it's just I'm just making an assumption here, but do you miss something from those years, or I don't know?
I mean, it's very difficult to describe the feeling you have when you're discovering something new. I mean, when you go into some area and you just simply find it absolutely amazing, and you get this kind of new feeling of something new, discovery of something that you just simply find and you fall in love with that. It's like falling in love with something, and little by little, when I became a kind of professional in 2000, where I lived 100% from teaching tango, organizing tango, and so on in 2000. I mean, it becomes I mean, you're not in love with the tango anymore as you are in the beginning. It's more like a love relation, of course, but you don't have this kind of first encounter, falling in love feeling anymore. But I think I still really I'm connected to these first feelings that I had when I met the tango, and they still mean a lot to me, actually. But when you ask me if I miss something from that, I mean, beside of that, I mean, no, I can't say that. I mean, the tango has grown in many directions since then. And you can find your own place, and you can find your own you can find places where you can dance the tango that you like. You couldn't do that when I started. I mean, there was only, few places to go, and there were few directions you could explore tango in. So you just had to take whatever there was that there was available for you. Now you can go to encuentros, you can go to marathons, you can go to festivals, you can go to Buenos Aires, or you can just go. I mean, you can just go, you and your partner, or you can go alone to some cities and just be there and dance in your favorite milongas, and you can go there and dance, follow different kinds of teachers and so on. You have a lot of many possibilities now to choose your own way. I mean, this is wonderful, of course, I think.
Yes.
So I mean, it's absolutely better now than it was before. I mean, yeah, in some way, I think it's better all over.
Yeah, well, it must be a bit of a mixed feeling, maybe, considering that it's also great that you got to experience all these things, whereas people who start now, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's for some people it's a little bit confusing that you have so many directions and so many teachers and so on who are saying different things and stuff like that. It's a frustration for many people, but it's also a gift, so you have to see what you can do with.
Yes. So coming back to the let's see, the teaching of tango. So in general, like, what do you find important? Well, you were saying that it changed after you went to Buenos Aires, and then I actually had a question about that maybe is also a bit too direct, maybe, but I'll just ask it anyway. So I find it a bit strange that, so you had all these people coming, and I suppose also all through the 90s. But then only when you went to Buenos Aires you really understood something. I mean, that to me that is in a way like you had also people come from Buenos Aires, I suppose, to you.
Yeah.
But it's just a mystery to me. My mystery is a bit of a big word, but it's strange that it somehow it didn't land earlier. But
no,
sir, I have to say one thing. It's very easy always to judge afterwards. So I'm not judging, but it's just I'm just surprised that only this visit to Buenos Aires made things click. But well, I know someone who is really like a very strong proponent of Buenos Aires, and she would I don't know if she watches this, but she would definitely recognize what you're saying. But yeah, sorry, it's just a really interesting thing. Yeah. Do you have any answers to that?
No, I don't have, actually. It's but it is funny for me myself, actually, that because I don't consider myself as a bad dancer. I mean, I had been dancing 10 years, really a lot. I mean, dancing we are talking about dancing almost every day since 1992, 93. So I mean, it was I knew how to dance the tango, but and I don't consider myself as a bad dancer at that in the end of the 90s. So, but anyway, as you're saying, there was a kind of click when I came to Buenos Aires, and it was like something fell. I mean, something was kind of going together in one way, and I understood something. I was just like a mature. It was something maturation in some way that suddenly something came to place in me and my body and my way of dancing. So, and I did 2 instruction videos also in tango, 2 videos for people who wanted to learn the tango, and they are very much dedicated. At least the first is a very general teaching with 20, more or less 20 different steps, figures you can learn. But the last video was dedicated to how to dance in a close embrace, and the steps that you need to know how when you want to maneuver in a crowded milonga. And these were things that I wouldn't have done if I hadn't gone to Buenos Aires. So, yeah.
But maybe more in general, maybe I'm just confusing things now, but I talked, I asked about your history of the teaching, and then you came up with this Buenos Aires moment, but you also said that it took you some time to understand, like, that things were more about connection and embrace. But is that like the same moment that you went to Buenos Aires that you understood that, or was that did it already happen earlier? Or?
Oh, it happened earlier, because okay. I had really strong teachers in connection, and also in the close embrace, like I said, Erik Jørgensen was already from 1903, and he was very much in the close embrace and connection and so on, and all the teachers who came from Holland at that time, and also like teachers from Buenos Aires, Daniela Armando, for example, they came to Denmark and to Aarhus, and they were really in the close embrace. They were, so I knew something about it, but it's also something that you have to, I think it takes some time before you really understand what it's about. So that's what happened for me, actually. I think it's difficult to, tango is not an easy dance to understand, really.
Yes.
But it's not easy for Argentines. I mean, a beginner is a beginner. It doesn't matter if it comes from Aarhus in Denmark, or from Buenos Aires, or from Mexico or Tokyo. I mean, a beginner is a beginner. You have to learn it from scratch.
Yes. And yes, it just sounds like a magical experience in a way that you may already have the knowledge, but only when you go to Buenos Aires, then it suddenly starts to make sense. That's really funny in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. Yeah, of course, when I became like a fish in the water in milongas after that. After I went to Buenos Aires, because I also really enjoyed being at the milongas. So going to the milongas became my absolute favorite thing to do. It was really nice, because I really felt, I enjoyed this situation, being in the milonga, being connected to the crowd and to the music and to your partner, and really dancing, trying to maneuver not to disturb the other dancers and so on. It became like a kind of thing for me. So I really enjoyed it after that, and I think I really started enjoying going to the milongas. It was another pleasure for me.
So it's like going to Mecca for some way or another.
I don't know, but it probably something like that.
Yeah, I don't know it either, but I read once that it's for a lot of, well, Muslims or whatever religion it is in poor countries, like they have to save up many years just for this one trip. And then if for some reason it's just, it's, well, not for some reason, it's just great to be there. Maybe sometimes they're also disappointed, who knows, life is complicated, but it just sounds like something. Yeah, I went to Mecca and then it suddenly tango made a lot of sense. It's just a metaphor. It's it's really funny. So and then, well, then I can come back to the question of teaching. So after that, your teaching style started to become different, and you were focused on different things. And has that been like that since, or did you also find new directions, new ways to
I mean, I in some for like 10 years, I was really 10, 11 years, I was really occupied with the close embrace. But now, also because I found a new partner in 2011, 2012, I started going a little bit back to try to add a little bit more show things, elements into my tango, because I thought also that the approach of being the close embrace approach was a little bit too rigid, actually. I call it a little bit puristic, that you were taking a little bit the fun element, the playing element out of the tango, because there was some rigid ideas on what to do, what not to do in the milongas and so on. And I mean, of course, you have to respect the other couples, and you have to be careful not to kick them or bump into them and so on. But it became a little bit more for me since 2010, 11, it became a little bit too, for me, was a kind of development into a little bit more rigid, puristic way of going to the milongas, with some very strong rules, and if you didn't follow them, you could really have the eye. I mean, so I wanted to develop the dance a little bit in another direction, to have, I mean, to be more playful in some way. I mean, I'm not saying that it was not playful. It's not playful. Of course, it's playful also to dance the close embrace, and you can have a lot of fun and so on. But I mean, I didn't want it to limit anything, to keep anything out of my dance. I wanted to bring everything into my dance. I mean, all the possibilities that the tango actually is offering you as a dancer.
But that's also maybe logical, because you're a teacher, and then your ambition level is probably higher than most people, and you've also been in there for a very long time, so you wanted to keep moving or evolving in a way.
Yeah, really.
So that it never becomes like this this thing that just, is too rigid, or I see that in some teachers. I think some people take more liberty than others. And I'm not exactly sure what that does to their students, but it's just good to see that there's a variety of things people do, and that not everyone is like it's well. So I always make I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't say that, but I always make like a bit of a joke of the tango festival in Buenos Aires, where they all have to dance in the same style. I mean, then you have like these yeah, but you have like these factory produced dancers. And the point of the tango, if you look at the old milongueros, for example, they all had their own style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And why wouldn't you, why should you, Gunner, dance the same as 100 other teachers in Europe? That doesn't make any sense, because tango also is freedom, right? Freedom of movement, and you should have your own style, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely in this. So, I mean, but I mean, as a teacher, of course, I've been a kind of I mean, I've been thinking. I think I've been more or less all over in the tango communities. I've been organizing really, really big festivals with more than 80 workshops, and I mean, a lot of people coming to the milongas. And but I never went into the encuentros and the marathons. But I mean, I think it's of course it's something people like it, and I think why not go there? I mean, but I just like these normal, or what you call it, traditional milongas. I mean, where you go and so, and but from my teaching now is more. I mean, I'm kind of, I mean, when I see people now when I see people dancing at milongas, I can see that they are doing some mistakes, of course, because I have this teacher analytic eye on the movements, of course. So, and I see a lot of particular mistakes that people are doing, and I ask myself, why are they doing these mistakes? All the dancers, more or not all, but quite a lot of them are doing the same mistakes. So for some years ago, I really started to analyze these problems, and I realized that there's one thing that many teachers are saying. They are saying that you're not allowed to lead with the arms, and it has become a kind of I don't know, a phrase that all tango dancers, they are kind of filled with, that you're not allowed to lead with the arms. And I know that it's not all teachers who are saying it, but it has a kind of it has had a lot of importance, that teachers, they are saying it, and I don't understand what it's about. I mean, for me, it's like you need to learn how to lead with the arms also. It doesn't mean that, I mean, your body and your arms are connected, of course. So it's not that you're only leading with the arms, but if you don't understand how you can add, and how you can add speed and direction and so on with the arms, and how you can lead with more precision if you know what to do with the arms, and how the arms are kind of supplement to the body turning and so on, then you leave all your tango dancers in your class, you leave them there with, they are not well equipped for dancing. Actually, they will have a lot of problems, and they will in the end they will develop some ideas themselves, and they are not always quite good. Because I mean, in the beginning at least, I mean, many schools, the only connection you have with your partner is with the arms in the beginning, and then you say that you're not allowed to lead with the arms. I think it's very confusing for the people who start dancing tango, because I mean, I touch my partner with the arms, but I'm not allowed to lead with the arms. I mean, it doesn't make sense actually. So you need to find a new language when you're teaching, where you understand exactly the way that your body is connected to the other partner via the arms, and that it's not that you have to know exactly what you do with the arms. That will equip the dancer with much better ways of knowing how to be connected. So and that's what the people are saying to me now when I'm teaching. I mean, really, we like the way you teach now, because you're so focused on connection. So my teaching now today is actually on connection. So that's a big development from when I started in the 90s, when it was steps more or less 100%, and to now where it's more or less connection all the time. Of course it's steps, but steps is only some means. So this has been a big development for me now, and especially in the last 8-10 years.
Is there is there maybe an example you can give of? I think that's very interesting when I talk to teachers, and they see a lot of things about people that I simply don't see because I'm not a teacher. What is a specific example of people making mistakes because they're told to not use arms?
I mean,
do you have an example at all? I mean,
yeah.
It's a bit hard.
But for example, I don't know. I mean, you have to be a tango dancer.
By the way, sorry, I don't mean it as a criticism. I don't have any opinion about that. I just want to know
really,
what
I really
you
like
see.
your question. I really like your question, because as a tango dancer, it's very easy for you to see what's going on. I mean, you can say that in general, if you see people doing the basic step, including the cross, that you will find that the follower who is meant to go into the cross, that she will, the men, when they take the outside step in the, I call it the third position. When you're doing the first, I mean, you do the salida, you go to the side in the basic pattern, and you take the first step outside. If you don't know exactly what to do, how to connect to your partner in that step when you go outside, many of the leaders' step will be too long. So they will actually go on the side of the woman, not being in front of her. They will go, of course, they will be in front of her a little bit, but the step will be a little bit longer than if they were going into, if they were going inside, if you understand. You go outside in the third position, or you can go inside also in the caminada. If you go forward with your right foot in the caminada, you know that you can't go along, you can't take a long step because you'll step on the woman's left foot. But if you go outside with the right foot in the third position of the basic step, you can take quite a long step because there's no risk to step on the woman's foot. But if you take a long step forward in the third position and you want to lead her into the cross, then many men, they because of the long step they took, they will have to shorten number 4 step before they lead the cross. And it's a very difficult change of energy to follow for the follower. So the cross will be, she will feel that she is kind of, the speed will change, and it's a very little bit dubious if she's going to do the cross with the music and end up the crossing in 5, or she's going to do the cross in the double speed. So this is confusing for the woman. So many people, many of the follower, you will see they will do the cross in a double speed because they don't really feel that they are led into the cross where the man is in control, doing it in the tempo, ending up in 5 in the cross, or if he's going to do it in a double speed. And for that reason, many women is out of balance in the cross because they feel uncomfortable because they are not really accompanying, the man is not really accompanying the woman into the 5 position. And that's all a thing about connection, how you do the embrace and how you create the frame. And I could make a lot of other examples also. But for example, I don't know if you want to hear more about this, but I think for me it's quite important because you have a lot of frustration in tango, and people they think, wow, I need some tools to understand what to do here, but they try to solve the problems. But for example, in the turnings also, you need to know how to turn, to pivot, and and to create the connection with your partner also in the turnings. And for that reason, I can show, and I can tell you another example if you want. Like, that a lot of dancers are having problems with, especially the woman, she's having problems with her right arm because she feels a lot of pressure from the man's left arm.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because most couples, they will feel the connection. I mean, they will feel the connection between the bodies going via the man's left arm to the woman's right arm, and then into the body. So the two cores of the followers, and the core of the follower and the leader is connected to each other via the woman's right arm and the man's left arm. There's very little connection to the man's right arm and to the woman's left arm, or it's a bit dubious what are they actually, how are they going to connect to the woman's left side, to the men's right side? And it makes a kind of twisted connection. And many people have problems. I mean, women are kind of, they have pain in the right arm, and also the men have some pain. I mean, it's a little bit twisted, the connection. And I think these are really, really important questions to emphasize when you teach, how you can improve a kind of more synchronized connection. I mean, where you have a feeling of being connected all around. I mean, like a complete frame and so on. This is important for me right now. This is what I'm working on.
And a complete, sorry, no, go ahead.
This is what I'm connected. It has a lot of my attention right now when I'm teaching.
Yes, but that also has to do with the arms. So it's
exactly.
like the full frame and not just the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because
of course, I'm dancing the close embrace myself, and I enjoy it a lot. But I think it's important, even in the close embrace, to know exactly what you have to do with the arms.
Yes. Yes. Because whether you're open or close embrace, if someone is like really pushing with strength here, with this arm from the man's perspective, I mean, it's going to be just as annoying as when you're a meter apart, so to say.
Absolutely. And I think that I mean, it can be awful to dance with someone who's using the arms in a really uncomfortable way. I mean, even if you're a follower or you're a leader, the arms can be really annoying. But they can also be some of the most caring and wonderful. Actually, arms can be really, I mean, something that you use to really, I mean, be connected in a really nice way. I mean, if you know what to do with the arms, it can help you a lot to be a good dancer.
Yeah, well, that's funny because I've been working with that recently, because I feel like there's always the problem of, for a man, for a leader to put too much force here, but also when you're in close embrace to put too much force in this hand. And I've noticed that sometimes, for example, when I make a step back, I suddenly, I can feel it myself until someone tells me, and then I realize that I'm actually pushing, doing unnecessary things with his hand and stuff like that. But it's full of that, those type of things, and tango is actually very complicated in that way, because
absolutely.
I mean,
but then I mean, I'm really critical because when I go to some seminars with teachers, I mean, I don't want to mention names because you have really, really strong teachers who are really famous in the tango community, and they from Argentina, I mean, from Buenos Aires, and they have this idea: you don't lead with the arms. And then you have teachers from Copenhagen, for England, for Germany, for Sweden, whatever. I mean, they say, okay, my maestros, they are saying I don't lead with the arms, so I better say the same. I mean, I need a critical reflection on these maestros and what they are saying. I mean, they have to be, I mean, they cannot just take it as a kind of some kind of I mean, a kind of truth that you have to listen to. You have to reflect on what is it truth? What does it give any sense here? And I mean, I love I'll tell you, like, for example, Chicho. I love Chicho a lot, and I've been in some of his seminars, and he likes to say, no, I don't lead with the arms. And then and then in one of his seminars I went to lately, he says, and now I have this kind of boleo, and I have another kind of boleo, and then I have this kind of boleo. You only lead with the arms. I said, oh, this is the development of Chicho. I mean, he starts talking about something that you lead with the arms. I mean, and I saw the other people who were in the seminar, really good dancers. They were kind of, oh, what was he saying? Something with the arms. So I think maybe this is I think this is a new development in the tango, that you will start to be you'll have more attention on really how can you use the arms to be a better tango dancer. And this is something I feel for the next 10 years will be there'll be much more focus on how to use the arms as a tango dancer.
So we'll keep
This is my
evolving.
prediction.
We'll keep evolving together.
Absolutely, yeah. This is
Yeah.
my prediction.
Yes. Well, I have to leave it here for today.
Yeah, good.
But I'm looking forward to seeing you another time. And,
Thank you, Lucas.
Yes, it was very interesting, and yeah, thanks for today. So it's a bit of a short goodbye, but
Good, Lucas. Thank you very much. Thank you.